All right. All right, guys. Welcome back to another video of Gabriel's message. So what I want to talk about today was a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, and why you're not seeing the results that you want to see as a man. Essentially, guys, what a fixed mindset is, the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset is a fixed mindset. When that person encounters failure, he sees failure as an obstacle that he cannot overcome. So basically, I guess in the gym, if you get sick or you get an injury and you miss a week, let's say you miss 2 or 3 weeks, you might begin to experience muscle atrophy, and you might see yourself in the mirror and become discouraged. And then now you've missed, 4 weeks. Now you just stop going to the gym, entirely. That's a fixed mindset. So a fixed mindset encounters failure and is not able to overcome failure. And then a growth mindset is someone who encounters failure or might encounter an obstacle and uses that as motivation to kind of propel them forward. The thing is with these two things is that you can be born with one and kind of through life learn to grasp the other, and obviously which one you end up kind of taking on as a behavior, that does kind of impact how you maneuver through life, especially when you're, as a man, you might have a family and a wife. Obviously, if you have a fixed mindset as a man and you have a wife and kids, it's going to be pretty hard to support them because you're not going to be a go-getter, essentially. I mean, it's a provider. So yeah, hold on, let me pause. So essentially what I'm getting at, guys, is that you're not stuck because of anything to do with your body, your genetics. It's not anything to do with your genetics, and it's not all just your mindset. I'm not that cliche guy that's here like, oh, you need to change your mindset. It's all of the mindset. No, but it isn't. It is about kind of how you are interpreting your mindset. You have to kind of know or be able to sift through your own thoughts, and this kind of takes a lot of self-reflection, a lot of alone time, that's a story for another video. A lot of men are afraid to be alone because they're afraid to encounter that silence that really opens them or shows them that void where it's just like, you and who you are. But anyways, to kind of get back on subject, it's all about how you're interpreting your set mindset. And so a fixed mindset kind of, when progress is slowing, they kind of see that as the end. And obviously, slow progress is still progress. Not all progress is going to be exponential and have, super, super high, excuse me, that wasn't the right vocab. But not all progress is going to be linear, essentially. You're going to encounter plateaus. And this is in the gym as well. You're going to encounter plateaus, injuries, what else? What else, bro? What else can you encounter? Relationships, all these things. The dangerous part about having a fixed mindset is this is where people get stuck. And so pay attention to what I'm about to say. There's this thing called a negative feedback loop. And this is called a loop because it's reoccurring, obviously. And what this is essentially is when you meet a failure, someone meets a stopping point, an obstacle in whatever progress or journey that they might be enduring, the negative feedback loop kind of essentially tells you to avoid this failure again. And so the best people, all the greats in the world have all encountered failure to such a degree that most of the world will look at them and call them delusional. You know what I mean? And that's exactly how you have to come when it comes to your goal or anything that you may be wanting to attain for yourself in life. You have to be delusional about it to a point where whatever you do looks just insane to most people. They shouldn't get it because they're not supposed to get it. It's for you, and people are just happy to catch on. Does that make sense? And so when people get stuck in this negative feedback loop, is because they encountered failure and they take that as a sign of how they did wrong. They internalize it, essentially. They take it personal. And you should never take feedback or failure as personal, because failure is not necessarily, it's not telling you that you're bad at this or that you suck at this. It's just telling you that this is the wrong way to do it. There is a right way. There is a right way to go about this. There is a solution, I guess. And so failure is not a bad thing. And if anything, we want to avoid this negative feedback loop because we don't want to get stuck in this purgatory of failing and then not overcoming. Failing and then not overcoming. Failing, getting scared and never trying again. Moving on to something else. No, like if you fail and this interests you and this is what you want to do, you're committed, you fail again and you fail again and you fail again and you fail again. You be delusional about it. And why am I saying be delusional about it? Is because you only get one life. And this is it. You only get one you, and you only get one time to do this. So if this is what you want to do for yourself, this is what you want to grasp, then you're going to fail. You should want to fail. I watched a video in class last semester, and it was about this project of these kids who were tasked to build a roller coaster without the help of an adult. And so it was actually a really good video. But what I took away from this quote alone just changed my whole brain chemistry, and I use it every day. And it ties into what I'm talking about. And he said, when the kids were making a roller coaster, they failed many times because there was no adult, supervision really. He wasn't really helping them out. So they failed many times. But essentially, or towards the end, they obviously built the roller coaster. And what they learned is that failure was probably the driving force of how these kids were able to end up building this roller coaster by themselves. They failed so many times, they essentially got it right. They ended up just getting it right. They ended up putting it together. And what he said was that failure is to be celebrated and analyzed. And that's kind of that's how I started looking at it. Ever since I heard that, I started looking at failure anytime I fail as that way. It's to be celebrated and analyzed. And like, obviously not every time that you fail, you're going to be like, yippee, woohoo, like I lost, but if you kind of are able to keep that kind of in the back of your head whenever you do lose or you do encounter failure, you're more aware, you're more keen on the circumstances at hand. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to have a fixed mindset about it. You're not going to let it put you in this perpetual loop of failing and not wanting to try again. No, you fail, you go get that shit. You go try again. You go try it again. You go try it again. You know what I mean? So, and that's what I took away from it. That failure is to be celebrated and analyzed. So, yeah. How long is this video already? 6 minutes? Hold on, guys. I'll get my talking points together. Going forward, what you guys need to be telling yourself is not necessarily, I can't do this, but how can I do this better? How can I fix this? What can I do next time to improve this speed? If you're testing for a 40, you have $1 million on the line in a time span of a 4.2 and a 4.4 if you're a receiver. If you're a linebacker now, it's, you have 4.6 and a 4.4, And so if you're an athlete training for the 40, and let's say you're trying to, the combine's coming up, and you're a pretty decently scouted athlete, but right now you're running about a 4.5, 40. That's not necessarily slow, but, in the NFL today, the average outside linebacker is probably running a low 4.5, high 4.4. And so, if you're struggling to meet that time, your mindset the question should be asking is not, am I ever going to do it? Am I ever going to reach this time? Or why can't I reach this time? Or what is wrong with me? No, completely shift your mindset. What can I do better to get me to this number? What mechanic can I fix? Should I come with my right hand down first? Should I lead with my left leg? Those are the kind of questions that you should be asking yourself and relaying back to yourself. If you take away from the quote that says failure is to be celebrated and analyzed, that's what you do. You treat failure like data. You treat failure as numbers. You start looking at the numbers. And once you do that, bro, I'm not going to say that success, that's the key to success. Like, there is no key to success. There is no formula to success. But I will say that that is one way that you are, doing everything that you can to, make sure that you're doing the best that you can for success, I will say. So, and it's simple. It has nothing to do. It's not asking you to increase your heart rate or anything. It's literally asking you to just start being aware of how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself. Somebody even told me today with my own faith, he was like, stop being so hard on yourself. Like, not even God is as hard as hard on you as you are on yourself. And like, that helped me because, dude, I think as a lot of men, like, we internalize a lot of things. We probably deal with a lot of things in our head that we don't talk about. So your body being probably one of the first and foremost things. Lots of people are insecure in their bodies because that's what people see. It's the first thing you see. And so, yeah, I don't want you guys being insecure about your bodies. I want to help you guys not be insecure about your bodies. But even me, sometimes I can get insecure about my body because I'm human and I'm flawed. But that's the best thing about us. So, yeah, guys, that's the video today. Just a fixed versus growth mindset. Learn to shift your perspective. It's everything essentially is about perspective anyway. And so you want to make sure that you're tying your perspective to what might be true to reality around you. That's the wise words from Gabe. But all right, with that being said, I'm about to go live with this body, put it to good use, and I'm out of here.